Welcome to AKA Jessica Jones, a podcast all about Netflix's newest superhero show, Jessica Jones. What a coincidence, huh? I am your host, of course, Zachary Hare, and with me for all things Netflix superhero is Jesse Jackson. No, not that one.
Hey there, Zach. It is nice to be back. It's been too long since we've done a little talking, and we made it through Daredevil. And once again,
Yes, we are gluttons of punishment.
for the fans, we are going to not binge watch. We are going to only watch a couple episodes at a time, talk about this latest chapter in the Marvel Universe.
Yes, indeed, and we also have to avoid the minefield that is Facebook.
Yes.
Sheesh.
One of the things that's at least a little better for me is I originally read the Alias comic book. And so I have, I know there are some changes, but I know at least the general storyline that I believe they're going to tell this season.
For me, I was familiar with Jessica Jones mostly from her stint when she was appeared in New Avengers. What I didn't know was how she was one of the Marvel retcon superheroes.
Yeah, and she was a very interesting retcon. I will tell you I picked it up because I liked Michael, Bendis. And so I was going to try it, and it's a very hard comic. She smokes all the time, which I know for TV reasons you can't do. And that, unlike some people, that doesn't bother me. I understand that.
But apparently drinking is fine.
Yeah, drinking is fine, and having, sex. Yeah, I really liked it. I was a little confused about, am I supposed to know this character? Was it someone new? And then quickly you figured out that this was a brand new character that they've kind of brought in where, she was a low level superhero. Spoilers for the book if you haven't. But unlike a certain other issue, superhero that they kind of retconned in, this worked.
Yeah, I think we all know which one you're talking about too.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but let's not bring up the Century now. Oh, that could have been so good, but they went nowhere with. Well, it started off so good, and then it's like they gave up halfway through.
Yes, I totally agree.
Now, so I know one thing I found they have the artistic style of it's like a painting or something in the opening credits.
Yeah, my brother, who believes Alias is the greatest comic book of all time, um, and I have talked about this. He hates the credits, but loves the series. The credits don't bother me. I think it's interesting it's a kind of similar to the Daredevil credits, yet different. And I like them. I think it fits that because that was kind of the style of the comic.
And I think what really stands out with this, and probably again why the comic and the character and the comic so popular, is they do say like this isn't like well, even though she obviously became an Avenger in the comics, she wasn't all like she didn't get her powers immediately say I am inspired to help people. Like this is like she got her powers and still lives in everyday life.
Yes. I I don't know if you're a fan of Astro City, but
Heard of it.
yeah. So Kurt Busiek, from Marvel's fame. Astro City has been going on 20 years, but it is tales set in a world where superheroes are pretty common, and they often tell stories that what if a normal human being was in a set in a superhero world. And there was just a recent episode where issue, I guess, where people with minor powers kind of all bound together and use their like this lady had telekinesis, and she tried to be a superhero, but she just wasn't good at it, and she was afraid all the time. So now then she uses hers, for special effects. And the premise of the story is that just because you have superpowers doesn't mean you go out, put on a cape, and go save the world. And Jessica is just trying to make a living, um, taking pictures of a lot of people having sex, right? And it is truly the right, the hard nosed private
Very much.
detective that is, and it's just really cool to see um, Kristen Ritter do this.
Yes, I mean I've seen her in some stuff, but this is the first thing I've ever seen her where she was the main focus.
Yeah, I agree, and I really think she's doing. I think this is a great role, and I also like the way how I saw her in Breaking Bad, and she was amazing as Jane. And then I did not watch Trust the Bee in Apartment 23.
No one did.
Yeah. But, and, uh, she was in Gravity, which is the Grey's Anatomy in space, I think. No, that was Gravity was the show about people for suicide survivors, and it was really dark. Um, but I, I love her as this character.
Yeah, she's like I said, like they show just normal stuff,
Mm.
like her getting a drink, getting out of bed, and going to the bed. Like no one ever see like the superhero thing, like oh, run out of toilet paper. I mean, it's not like she flies out and get another role.
Yeah. And, the other thing that was interesting is the way she puts on a persona when she's investigating.
Oh
Like,
yeah, like the clueless girl.
yes.
We see that
Uh,
in the second episode too.
yeah. And oh my God, you know, my boss is going to kill me. And was really, it's, it's just fun to see.
Yes, and it's great what they're doing with the character, and I'm very intrigued by the thing. So of course we see I mean it's very obviously Luke Cage who she's watching.
Yeah. And I'm curious if um, casual fans, and I just got to think most of them knew because it's all over the internet, right? That this actor had been cast as Luke Cage. So I'm assuming most people knew that Luke Cage is a superhero, metal
I mean
human,
he's a
whatever you
pretty
want to call it.
main Avenger.
Yeah, he is. And Mike Coulter, I don't know if you watch The Good Wife, but
I used to.
he played this drug dealer.
Oh, the big one. What's his name?
Yeah, Lamont Bishop.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
yes,
I watched. Oh, I watched the earlier. So yeah, that. Oh, that's interesting.
yeah, and he was this the character in The Good Wife. Lamont Bishop was this. He was a drug dealer. He was one of the most powerful drug dealers in Chicago, but he would always interact with uh, Julie. The law firm. They handled his legitimate business, and he was a very devoted father, and he he was a great character and really showed a lot of depth. So when they announced him being Luke Cage, I went, "This is perfect casting," and he does come across with this quiet strength
Mm.
and great, very sexy, very charismatic, really really good stuff.
Now the thing with her, when she gets flashes of Kilgrave, the way they almost like they're trying to say like they're trying to almost imply he was really there just affecting her, but it's like but that because of course it's what he did to her gives her very serious PTSD.
Yes, and it's a um, in the comic, you didn't know what was going on early. You just knew that this was, a hard drinking, hard smoking, cynical person. Um, I think it's a wise choice for them to set up very quickly why she has the PTSD, why she is struggling, and her point of saying, you know, when she talks to the other victim in the very first episode, and she says that you need to get away as far away as possible, and she's planning to do it, and to make the decision at the end of the first season that starts us on this hero journey of no, I I'm not going to run. I'm going to see what I can do is very nice.
And as we see, like obviously from what you say, she knows the effects. Obviously, like they're not doing something, and I'm glad they didn't because I think this would have been a mistake. She knows that it's some kind of other human thing. It's not like everyone think like it's well. There probably some people who disagree with her, but you know what I mean. Like she knows it's some kind of mind control.
Yes, absolutely.
Now we had a drinking game for Daredevil for good fighting. I think I know a good one for it. We take a shot every time she uses her powers for something very benign, like when she
Okay.
throws her alarm at the ceiling.
I think that is a really good idea. Absolutely.
Now I wonder because there seems to be also indication that maybe she did try to be a hero.
Yes, there was, at least from the comic, and I apologize in advance if people are like, "Oh, shut up about the comic, Jesse." Um, that she was a very low level um, superhero, and then um, especially she wasn't very good at it, and after um, Kilgrave, she just gave it up.
Yes, and I bet I'm curious if they're going to go that way with this.
Yes.
Now, of course, we see her use her powers and it's really interesting. What they do is like she uses them to take down the guy. It's like, oh my god, you're one of them. And he's trying to like, I'll tell everyone. She's like, it's not like I'm in hiding, and it's the whole idea that people don't want to see and that kind of thing.
Yes, the it's in this Marvel universe where you have Thor and the Hulk, and I guess now Spider-Man. Thanks to all the agreements made among huge, you know, con- corporate overlords. Um, it is it's interesting that people would be afraid of, super metahumans, people with powers, and I like that you don't just display it, you don't show it, um, and just it's a nice twist, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. So of course she goes to Luke's bar, and there's the connection there that I'm sure I'm very curious to see where the connection between them. I mean, there's the obvious back and forth between them, which is something right from the comics. Now obviously we know from the second episode the answer, but I believe right here we get a little hint of the fact that he already has his powers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And she talks about that, right, saying, um, you won't let him tear up your bar. Um, you
No,
know.
I
Oh,
meant the sex scene.
oh yes. Okay.
Because he says out because he holds back because he knows he's
Right.
obviously with those kind of abilities he could hurt someone, but he doesn't know that. Well, obviously she's not invulnerable, but she's slightly invulnerable. I mean,
Yes, and she has. I certainly don't know, on the scale of back in the Marvel Universe handbook, what is her scale, but she certainly is strong, and she certainly is tougher than the no, normal person. And I I thought it was interesting when he's like, I will hurt you, and she's like, no, you won't. Let it go. And both of them are meta without each of them knowing it.
Right. And actually, sex is another thing. Like you get, although I keep thinking of that scene in Mallrats with Brody, who's obsessed with comic book character sex.
Yes,
Like, but it is true. It's like the little things. Like I think the biggest one is how everyone talks about how Lois could never have Superman's baby. That kind of thing. Like
right.
superheroes have. It's the little things, and I think they're handling that kind of thing pretty good here so far.
Yeah, I do think they're doing it well.
Oh, and I love when she goes. She's investigating the kid. Of course, she's investigating the missing daughter. Goes to the roommates, and then she goes to the Asian fusion restaurant. And the guy, with the second he realizes what she's talking about, he just freaks out. See, and this is another example of like what she said, where people don't want to know. Obviously, something weirdly was going on. Like the guy just talked to people, and they would do whatever he said. You would like in the comic books, someone might call Shield or the Avengers, but they rather just sweep it under the rug here.
Absolutely.
And she starts freaking out because it's the same kind of date that he took her on, and she starts flashing back. She goes to the parents, and they tell her it wasn't a policeman that told them to go to her; it was just some guy. And she actually, and this actually is a little. We get a little view into her morals. She tries to use the missing girl's credit card to buy a plane ticket.
Yeah, because she's like, I'm getting the blank out of here. And of course they can't. Yeah, it was a nice that the restaurant had changed names and they made the chef do, he made the chef do Italian food
Yeah,
um, to recreate that moment. Very, very creepy and scary.
and we also have the backstory of I'm not sure if they're going to go anywhere with it. Her boss is cheating on her wife,
Yeah, um, I did
which is
not,
actually refreshing to see when you think about it.
yes, I did not remember the character, and that's why I need to pull out my books. Um, the I know the attorney is a male in the script in the comic, and they changed it. And I love that Carrie Ann Moss playing Jerry, really strong, really unlikable yet likable. Very cool.
And like it's so I mean the American cinema is sadly chugging along with having people who are gay and not being a focus of the
Yes.
uh but I want to make mention of who did you notice the actress playing who playing her wife.
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of hers. I mean I've seen her in a lot of other stuff that I liked her in, but the thing that got me onto her was when she played Calamity Jane in Deadwood. She was so good at that.
Yeah, I liked her too. I've never seen Deadwood. I know, I know.
That's right.
Uh,
Come on, man, right up your
I
alley.
know. Just did not have at the time. But yes, she's been in other stuff that I really, really like her in. She is an interesting face and a really cool
Yes. I
actress.
mean,
And
they must have hired her. I mean, I'm guessing there's going to be a lot more of the story if they got her to play because she's not a minor actress.
no, she isn't at all. And yeah, I like her. I agree with you. I like her a lot.
Now, speaking of actor we like, we also get the actress who's playing Trish, who I know. I mean, she's been in a few stuff that didn't really pan out, but really liked her in the first Transformers movie.
Yeah, Rachel Taylor, very interesting, very attractive. I agree. She's very interesting. She had a pretty big part in Grey's Anatomy. That's where I first saw her. And she
I
was
mean, that's where
good.
your wife made you see her.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's it. Absolutely. Um,
But and
and
obviously she knows that Jessica has the power. She's obviously a friend of hers, and she was friends before the incident. Like
yeah,
we still know because I mean, in the comics it was she got her powers after an accident I mean, I don't know if they're going to try to do it more realistic, or how they're doing. 'Cause we have absolutely no hints about that so far, and I'm sure all our listeners who have already marathon the whole show could already email us and tell us.
Yeah. Well, and in the comic, Carol Danvers is this role, and Miss
She actually looks like she could
she
she could
does,
pass.
and
Huh.
they changed this because they aren't sure. In the Marvel universe, will they use Miss Marvel having her own film and what they'll do? So by having, Trish, I think it works better that um, at this point it doesn't look like she's metahuman, and I like her.
Well, do you
I
think
like.
this is still going to be someone?
No, I don't. I think, at least I don't think so. Maybe she will be, but I think at this point it's just, you know, this is Jessica's best friend, in a lot of ways sister. Um, and we're kind of jumping around, but their banter back and forth, in both episodes, was what true friends do, right?
Exactly.
I need money.
And she obviously cares about her.
Yes, very much cares.
And first she tries to tell her, "Oh, it's all in your head." But I think that's one thing I really liked about and what we're talking about, the connection between them. She only says it's in your mind for like 2 seconds.
Yes.
She
Yeah,
actually is the one that says her you should go if Kilgray's around, you should go after him.
yeah. And as she said, because you can do it better than others.
Yes. Now, I think this is worth mentioning. When she goes to the hotel, the doorman recognizes her almost instantly, which implies she was with Kilgray for a good amount of time.
Absolutely. And it also establishes that you appear normal. You're not like a zombie. Um,
Well, we find out later more about the effects. We'll get to that
right.
when we.
Because, oh, are you going to be staying with us again? And very happy to see her. Yeah.
Well, it's not like obvious mind control because he just, as we know with the Purple Man, he just talks. So if she goes to the thing and
Yes.
very smartly uses the fire alarm because anyone who stays, and this scene is like, I mean, this like even like this is why they're picking. I think they're picking the right heroes for the Netflix shows. They're picking heroes and villains and stuff that like they don't need heavy CGI special effects, and everything about the Purple Man is, even though we do get glimpses and we see him in the next episode, even so, your imagination and your fears, and they play that so well, like before, like the power of him, because she sees the girl and the girl's just sitting there looking at the clock because he told her to, and she even wet herself.
Yeah. Yeah, because he told her to stay, and you saw how hard it was for Jessica to get her out of that room, even though Jessica does have enhanced strength. And I thought that was very, very cool.
Yeah, but well, like without hurting her and stuff.
Yeah. Do Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I wasn't. No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you a question, but I lost it, so hopefully you'll edit this out.
Okay.
Okay.
So she gets her back to the parents, and she comforts her, till it's not your fault and all that. And then the parent, and then the scene. And because I knew something was up when there was how much time was left, and then she just pulls out the gun and she just starts firing, and it just keeps firing till it clicks. And she looks at her and says, "Smile," and then she snaps out of it and like starts freaking out.
I In the back of my mind, I thought there might have been something, but I agree with you. You knew when they show the scene of them going to the elevator, oh my goodness, something's going on. Um, and she was a time bomb. I mean, he set this up for her, and this is all to just um, mess with Jessica's mind.
Yeah, I mean, know about that. Yeah, he Kilgrave set the whole like he made her have he kidnapped this girl. The whole point was just to get at Jessica.
Yes.
So I mean, it's a heck of. I think this for the first episode, and we see your part that you liked, where
Yeah.
she's about to run away, and as we know, this is another game of her knowing its power. So it says if you get away from, so she knows it's an ability that has its limits.
Yeah, it is, um, and it is, as they talked a lot um, on after 9/11, and West Wing has a beautiful scene about rushing into the building in the fire, and when you make the choice to go fight the good fight, to take on what you're afraid of, I think that's courageous, and I think that makes a great hero's journey.
Yeah.
And she is a flawed character. She is at times an unlikable character, but I just am just excited to kind of go on this journey with Jessica.
Indeed. So for my final thoughts for this episode, it's very. I mean, it has a very interesting flow. It's definitely different than Daredevil, which is good.
Hmm.
And it's like you said, it kind of flows like a film noir kind of thing, which is works really good for the character. So I'm very interested. The episode did not disappoint, so I'm definitely interested in seeing more.
Yeah, Zach, I agree. Of course, I was in just based on, first off, the source material got me. Then when we saw how well Daredevil was, and I've seen a few people posting that they don't think this is as good as Daredevil. I've seen other people say it's better than Daredevil. I don't know if you can compare.
I don't think you can.
I don't know if you can compare necessarily, a grilled, steak versus, a great piece of, fried fish or something. They're just totally different. So I'm very happy. And as continuing the tradition of you saying, yay, you liked it or not, and I being
Oh God, what'd you come up with?
I am going to give this 8.5 broken doors.
All right, everyone, stay tuned for the because we're coming right after this is episode 2, and I'd like to remind you, purple is the new black.